evening. Frank Rock, House of Orange Sports Channel, coming at you. The Tennessee Volunteers, your number one ranked Tennessee Volunteers, continue their ownership of the Vandy Boys with a 7-6 victory in Nashville tonight. They take game two, they win the series, they extend their ownership of Vanderbilt to 9 games in a row, and they look to extend that to 10 tomorrow with Xander Sechrist taking the mound. Probably Nate Snead and possibly some more who can finish that off for them. But you know what? Like always, though, you know that it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be one of those you sweat it out, and it came right down to the end on tonight. But the teams find ways to win ball games. That's just what they do, and Tennessee's done that numerous times this year. I talked about it last night about how I thought their most impressive victory of the season was Game 2 against Georgia in that series after Georgia had run ruled them. Georgia was up big in Game 2, and then Tennessee stormed back, beat them 16-11, went on Sunday, possibly with even, it could have been even more impressive when you see what Georgia's doing with that 7-0 victory. This was a pretty impressive in the sense of Tennessee was down 3-2. They were up. Vanderbilt took the lead from them. Vanderbilt brought in their guy throwing 100 on it. And Christian Moore, man, here's the thing. You walk guys, you get in trouble on it. They walked Dean Curley, Cannon Peebles walked, and then Cal Stark with a pathetic excuse for bunt attempts. Absolutely pathetic on that. And I am not a fan of bunting with 0-2, especially when your first attempt, you pull the bat back, and your second one doesn't even look like you're close. It's a waste of an out. It's a waste of an out. At least, now, there's a chance Cal could have struck out, anywho, but there is that possibility. Hey, you hit a little dribbler, you move both guys over. Fortunately, Christian Moore, again, that's why he's in that leadoff spot. I've talked about this all year long. That's where I want him. It gets back to him at that top with 2 guys on. He's down in the count. He had left the bases loaded earlier. He wasn't happy about it. This time, he comes up. He gets around on that 100-mile-an-hour fastball, sends it the opposite way, 3-run home run. Tennessee never looks back. They got another insurance run from Moore again with a single late in the game that made it 7-5. And it did interesting. I thought the pitching decisions were interesting today, but it worked out. It worked out in the end, and Tennessee wins that series, makes it 9 in a row over Vanderbilt, and I think they have a good shot to make it 10 tomorrow as well. So getting into the stats, Christian Moore tonight, what more can you say? 3 for 5, 5 RBIs. Blake Burke was 3 for 5. Good to see him get that. Billy Amick 1 for 5. Tiers 0 for 4. Tiers had a rough night, but he had a walk. He had 3 strikeouts. Amick, a couple strikeouts. Dylan Dreiling 1 for 4, a walk. Dylan Dreiling did have a double play that ended inning with a runner in scoring position. That was a big out for Vandy then. Hunter Ensley 1 for 5. Curley 1 for 3. He had a walk. 2 runs scored. Antigua come in later on for defense. Reese Chapman started the game 0 for 1, struck out, and then they pulled him for Cannon Peebles, and Peebles 0 for 2. 2 walks, a run, a strikeout. Cal Stark 2 for 5. 1 run, 1 RBI, 2 strikeouts. And I thought it was interesting that Tony went with Reese Chapman. I'm not understanding the handling of the DH spot right now. I know he's probably just trying to keep guys in it, keep guys, maybe give opportunities. But these guys they keep running out there, they're running them out there to strike out. I got to think these guys are pressing a little bit because some of these guys hit better earlier in the year, and now you're seeing these dudes do nothing but strike out and get pulled. I don't like the handling of the DH right now, and let Peebles run with it. Peebles seems to be doing more, whether it's a hit, whether it's walks. He's getting on base or he's making something happen. He's done that each of the last few weeks. He did it late against Kentucky on Sunday. He come in, he got a sac fly, which I thought was big. I thought big in that situation. It's just putting the bat on the ball. And I don't understand why Peebles didn't get that opportunity today, especially when you're facing especially with Vanderbilt. I mean, facing the pitcher that you faced. I don't know. It is what it is. They make some interesting decisions in Knoxville sometimes. I cannot lie about that. But that was your lineup. More, I mean, 5 RBIs, huge today for him. I mean, credit to Cal Stark. As aggravated as I was over that bunt attempt, or both bunt attempts, they were terrible, absolutely terrible. But it's easy for me to sit here and say when you're trying to bunt against 100 miles per hour. Also, Chris Burke was talking about that in the booth, how Stark was in the back of the box. He was not squaring early. He said, really, your best way to bunt against that type pitch, get in the front of the box and be squared early on. That was something Stark doesn't do. And bunting is just, it's a lost art from, I don't know. Normally, your guys that are your best bunters are your best hitters, is the funniest thing about it. Look at the pitching today. So, kind of look at my bullet points I had on the game. Tennessee extended to 9. Good teams find ways to win. I bet that's Vanderbilt program, man. They're fighting for their lives for the NCAA tournament right now. And I heard this earlier in the week, and I think I've kind of thought this myself. It's funny how in this NIL era, in this new transfer portal era we are in, all of a sudden Vanderbilt's not all that. Vanderbilt doesn't have the Vandy Fund over all these other teams. I specifically asked this on Talking Vols when I was on there. We interviewed, can't remember the guy's name from Spire. It was right after NIL. And I point blank asked him that night. I was like, in terms of baseball, how does NIL change the trajectory and change the game with Tennessee versus Vandy and that Vandy Fund? He kind of laughed at first, but he said, yeah, it changes it a lot. It evens the playing field for Tennessee, where other teams did not have that playing field that they had with Vandy and the Vandy Fund, where guys were able to come in and get more scholarship money. Because if you're not aware of it, all these baseball players are not on full scholarships. I'd be interested to know how this was divided up amongst the team. But I'd be surprised if anybody on the team is on a full scholarship. Now, maybe they make enough NIL to offset it, but I would be really surprised if anyone on this team is on a full scholarship. And some of them are probably paying their own way, and maybe more than you would think are doing that. But that's not broadcast, so we don't know all that. But I do know there's not the money and there's not the go around with scholarships that there is in, say, football or even basketball. Of course, there's more players on the roster in baseball than there is basketball as well. So that's kind of probably like comparing apples to oranges. But in this new era, it's funny to me how Vandy keeps gradually declining. Tim Corbin, Dabo Sweeney, 2 guys top of the game prior to NIL and the portal. Now, I'm not going to say with Corbin that he'll be fighting for his job or anything. Dabo Sweeney's going to get himself fired from Clemson. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, if he does not adapt to the portal era. It's just what it is on it. He adapts to the portal era, things will probably change, but he's getting passed up because of his stubbornness to utilize the portal. It's funny how even playing field and baseball and Vanderbilt's all of a sudden in their one sport they're good at, not all that good at it anymore. And it's starting to go down. And, it is an orange state. It is our state. It is Tennessee State in all sports. And Vandy can cling to what they want to on it. But it is even sweeter to know this is their sport and Tennessee owns them like they do in everything else. They own them on it. Sunday's game, Xander Sechrist. Last I had seen, Vandy had not named a starter. I got to think you hope you get a few innings out of Sechrist and then turn it over to Snead, who ended up having to come in and close out Aaron Combs today. And then Tennessee is tied with Kentucky now in the standings. Kentucky was beat today. And I like Tennessee's chances to sweep South Carolina next weekend. Nothing against South Carolina. Georgia has wiped the floor with them this weekend. And Georgia's playing good baseball, too. I like Tennessee's chances because they're similar offenses, Tennessee and Georgia, that Tennessee will sweep South Carolina at home next weekend. I expect 1 to 2 run rules out of that next weekend, just based on what I'm seeing from Georgia. And again, that's not a slight against Georgia in the least. It's just that 2 similar offenses, and I think Tennessee will have some real success next weekend against South Carolina. I like Tennessee's chances to win the East and possibly even go into the SEC tournament as the 1 seed on it. But as of tonight, Tennessee, Kentucky, they are tied in the standings. I'm not sure how they would go on that, if they would call it split or if they would give Tennessee the outright East in that scenario. I know Tennessee would have the tiebreaker over Kentucky based on winning that series. And then the last thing I want to talk about is, of course, the pitching tonight. Drew Beam, he gave you a Drew Beam effort, 5 1/3, 6 hits, 5 earns, 5 they were all earned, 3 strikeouts, 6 walks, 104 pitches. Kirby Cannell, a third of an inning, gave up 2 hits, had a strikeout. Kirby just up and down, man. Aaron Combs come in, bailed him out. Aaron Combs was a little wild tonight, 2 2/3, 1 hit, 1 earned run, but he had 3 walks. And Snead had to come in at the end, get 2 outs, gave up a sac fly. As Vandy had second, third with 1 out, gave up a sac fly, and then Snead got the grounder to end it. So, that's ice in the veins when you come in and close it out in that situation, especially that. That's a pretty stressful situation, I would imagine. But Snead come in and finished it, got the save. Beam with the win tonight. He did what you need him to do. Wasn't great, wasn't bad, but he got the job done. And then guys in the bullpen, they stepped up when needed. Christian Moore stepped up as well. Your man. I don't think Christian Moore will win most valuable player of the conference, but man, he's up there. He's up there as one of the most valuable. I have to think it goes to Charlie Condon. I've seen Jack Caglione mentioned, but man, Florida's fighting for their lives. With what Georgia's doing, what Condon's doing, I have a hard time believing he won't be the conference player of the year. But Christian Moore's making a really good case for it as well. And we'll see how they go with that. We'll see how the voters go. I have to think they go Condon, and I really can't sit here and say he doesn't deserve it. But at the same time, Christian Moore's making a nice case he deserves it. Caglione does, but my thing with Caglione is Florida is just, they're not where Georgia and Tennessee are in the standings. And that's kind of my difference on that one. 3 guys who are great ball players. There's no doubt about that. 3 guys who some of the best three the best players in the entire country in one conference, in one division, as a matter of fact. But tomorrow I will be live with you immediately after the game. That'll be in that probably around 6:30 or so. I hope you'll join me for that as well. And, make sure you like this thing, you share it, you subscribe to the channel. If you like the content, down that right corner where you see that $sign, House of Orange is always accepting tips. We always appreciate that as well. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. If you get out here tonight, I hope you're able to see the Northern Lights. I missed it doing the live show. My wife got a good picture of them up here where we're at last night. Pretty awesome. I hope I'm able to get out here and catch them tonight as well. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. And last but most certainly not least, and definitely this goes for our sons in Nashville as well, go Vols.